About to say will not be a surprise. Judge Jackson conceded that there was absolutely no evidence of any Russian collusion in this case. So that makes two courts have ruled no evidence of any collusion with any Russian.
That's not what
Part
she
number
said.
two. Very sad.
That's not what she said.
Very sad
That's not what she said.
for such a callous, harsh sentence that is totally unnecessary, much like this.
You guys are liars now. You're not lawyers, you're liars.
Yeah, I can only tell you one thing. Again, that was proven today. No collusion. There's no collusion. There's no collusion, and there hasn't been collusion, and it was all a big hoax. And now you're seeing it. Today, again, no collusion. The other day, no collusion. There was no collusion. When I had to go to Wisconsin, I went to Wisconsin. When I had to go to Michigan and Pennsylvania and South Carolina and North Carolina, that's where I'd go. When I had to go to Florida, which we won easily, I went to Florida. You don't call Russia when you go to Florida. Russia won't help you much. Have a good time, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
For the second time in two sentencings, Trump has twisted the words of judges to suggest that there was no collusion with his campaign in Russia. In this case, Paul Manafort was given an additional 60 months in prison for conspiracy against the United States and conspiracy to obstruct justice. During sentencing, Judge Amy Berman Jackson made clear the no collusion refrain that runs through the entire defense memorandum is unrelated to matters at hand. The no collusion mantra is simply a non sequitur. She even pointed out that the investigation was still ongoing, meaning that this particular sentencing doesn't preclude any other charges or sentencing on anything related to Russian collusion. So clearly, Judge Jackson was trying to get out ahead of some baseless political talking points, which makes it all the more absurd when both Trump and Manafort's attorney twisted those words to claim that there was, and I hope you're sitting down, no collusion. Of course, this surprised exactly no one because both Trump and Manafort's legal team did the exact same thing last week when Judge Ellis sentenced Manafort to 47 months for bank and tax fraud.
I feel very badly for Paul Manafort. I think it's been a very, very tough time for him. But if you notice, both his lawyer, a highly respected man, and a very highly respected judge, the judge said there was no collusion with Russia. This had nothing to do with collusion. There was no collusion. It's a collusion hoax. It's a collusion witch hoax. I don't collude with Russia. So I just want to tell you that his lawyer went out of his way, actually, to make a statement last night. No collusion with Russia. There was absolutely none. The judge, I mean, for whatever reason, I was very honored by it, also made the statement that this had nothing to do with collusion with Russia. So, keep it going. Let's go. Keep the hoax going. Just a hoax.
And Manafort's attorneys were on board with the misdirection, saying that there is absolutely no evidence that Paul Manafort was involved in any collusion with any government official or Russia. But what Judge Ellis actually said was that Manafort was not before this court for anything having to do with collusion with the Russian government to influence this election. At no point during either of these trials was Manafort charged with collusion, which is probably why he wasn't found guilty of collusion. He also wasn't on trial for murder, kidnapping, grand theft auto, and so he didn't get charged with those things. Are you sensing a theme? But of course, none of this is surprising because clearly Manafort and his team are posturing for a pardon. By doing Trump's bidding out in the open, promulgating his tired no collusion slogan, they are participating in Trump's political theater. Manafort's now looking at 77 months in prison, including both sentences from Judge Ellis for bank and tax fraud and Judge Jackson for conspiracy charges. So it makes sense that the former Trump campaign chairman is betting heavy on a pardon from the White House. There's just one problem. New York. At the exact same time that Manafort was sentenced, Manhattan DA Cyrus Vance announced that Manafort would be indicted on an additional 16 counts in New York State. And because these are state crimes, if convicted, Trump wouldn't be able to pardon him. No one is beyond the law in New York, he said, and I'm assuming that the emphasis was squarely on the words, in New York. So Trump and his sycophants can continue their strategy of repeating the same phrase ad nauseum, but as we're starting to learn, that doesn't make it true.
No collusion. There's no collusion. There's no collusion, and there hasn't been collusion.